Hi guys, welcome to my video. My name is Teresa and this is part 2 of my June wrap up. As I said guys, this is part 2. If you want to go watch part 1, go ahead. It'll be linked up above for you to go watch. I split this video into 2 parts because the actual video itself was just way too long. So without further ado, let's move into part 2 of my June wrap up. Okay, and then after that, sorry, hair in my face. I went from having what, 1 5 and 3 4.5s all the way down to a 2.75, and this is probably one of, as today, if you guys saw my mid-year freak out tag, this is my biggest disappointment of the year so far. And that just happens to be All Good People Here by Ashley Flowers. Oh, this book, you guys. So Ashley Flowers is the co-founder, co-host of Crime Junkies, which is like pretty much the most popular true crime podcast out there. And she also is a part of the Podcast Network. She has a ton of podcasts and does a lot of stuff. And I really, really like her as a podcast host. I think that she does great. I really enjoy listening to her. Apparently that does not translate well to novels. So I'm gonna go on a little bit of rant here because, okay, first off, this cover is so pretty. Look, if I could live here, I would. Like, no kidding. This is like my dream place, right? It's so freaking pretty. Oh, this book makes me so mad. Okay, so it takes place in a small town. It's about this woman who, well, basically back in the 90s, yes, in the 90s, there was this young girl named January. What's her last name? January Jacobs, and she was reported missing from her home, and she was found a few hours later dead in a ditch. And so this was like rocked the nation. This was a huge story, a huge thing that is, you know, to modern day unsolved. And so it's about this woman, what was her name? Margaret. And she was really good friends with this young girl who died and was next door neighbors. She, her whole life, always had the thought of like, it could have been me. And so she ends up moving away to a bigger city, and she becomes an investigative crime reporter, investigative journalist. Yeah. And she's always trying to figure out, you know, what happened and solve the murder, because she's, like I said, in the back of her head, she's always thinking, that could have been me. I was literally right next door. So she has to move back home. Again, this is a tiny little small town where everybody knows everybody situation. She moves back home to care for her uncle who is developing dementia or Alzheimer's. I can't remember one of the two, which I thought might be a bit of an issue for me because my grandmother actually just recently passed away and she had Alzheimer's. My boyfriend's mom, unfortunately, also has early onset Alzheimer's or dementia, and so I was a little bit worried about that going into this, but it didn't affect me personally, so that was good. That was not why I didn't like this book. So she's dealing with her uncle and trying to help him, and so she moves back home, and basically right after she moves in with her uncle, another young girl disappears in the next town over in very similar circumstances. And so she believes that it is the killer who killed January is at it again. And so she basically is trying to investigate and figure out if she can find out what happened. And there's a lot of these secrets and things in this small town, and you know, she's kind of digging up stuff that people don't want to come to light, if you know what I mean. And then you also have a past time period where you are following the mother of the young girl, January. From it's like 1994 is the time period that we were in, and 2019 is the so it's right before COVID, but 2019 is the modern timeline. And this book, no, this didn't come out this year. This came out last year, I think. Did it? Let's see. Yeah, it came out last year, so it's actually not a new release, but it's like a almost new release. Anyways, yeah. So the premise sounds great, right? But now, I didn't coin this. I saw someone on Goodreads, so I was looking at the Goodreads reviews because I was like, okay, I gotta know what other people think about this book because I was so angry with this book. Someone coined the fact that they said, this is JonBenet Ramsey fanfic. And I was just like, yeah, oh my gosh, you just nailed the nail on the head, you guys. This is JonBenet fanfic. And it kind of disturbed me, okay? So those of you, I'll put this down because I'm ranting here. I'm ranting. Okay, for those of you who don't know who JonBenet Ramsey is, she was a young girl, like a beauty queen, beauty star. You know, like the pageant girls, like you see, like what's that TLC show called, where they dress up these girls to make them look like they're, you know, really grown up with makeup and hair and the whole bit, and they do these kind of dances. Yeah, JonBenet Ramsey, she was one of those, and she was very well loved, popular, and she was murdered. And it was not just a murder, it was a very strange situation. It was a botched investigation, just the whole thing, and to this day it's still unsolved. And this took place back in the 80s, 90s, I think, like early 90s. She was 6 or 7, I think. She was a very young little girl, and there was just a lot of stuff that came out about the family, considering that she took place in these beauty pageants at such a young age, and that her pictures, she always looked very grown up and had makeup and hair and the whole bit. So there was a lot of stuff about the family that, you know, was like, ooh, a very rich family. It just a lot of stuff, and there's been a lot of speculations over the years about who did it. And yeah, so it's a very fascinating case, if you guys are unaware of that. But I remember it because I was born in 1988, and so I remember seeing the newspaper headlines and everything about her, and the tabloids and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, it's still unsolved to this day. So this book, The Missing Girl, it is, like, I like stories inspired by other stories, right? Like, inspired by a true story or retellings. I really like that. This book, though, it felt wrong to me because literally it's like, it's the story. It's the exact same story. She just tweaked a few of the details. Like, she changed a few of the names and she tweaked a few of the little details, and that was it. But other than that, it is literally play by play the same story. And I just was like, no, no, you, like, can you not come up, like, make your own? It bothered me so bad because I have read a lot of thrillers that are based on true stories, you know, but they make it their own. She did not make it her own. Very few things were changed. Very few things. It bothered me. It bothered me so much that I just did not enjoy my time reading it. The new timeline was okay. I would say if it was just following the now timeline, the 2019 timeline, you didn't get the past, this would have been a 3-star. Again, I rated it 2.75. So it was just okay. It didn't really do anything spectacular. It didn't have anything to add to the genre, really. It was just kind of your very generic investigating situation, except for the end. And this is another thing that really pissed me off. This has a very ambiguous ending, a very open-ending, ambiguous ending. And I literally got to the end of it and I was like, no, you're joking. Like, you're joking. This is not the end of this book. What the absolute heck? This cannot be the end of this book. I was so angry with it. I'm like, no, you can't end your book like that. Like, you just can't do it. Oh my gosh. And look, I don't always mind ambiguous endings, okay? I'm not someone that's like, I have to have everything wrapped up all the time in every story. But this one ended in such a way that it literally felt like they're missing a chapter. Like, it literally felt like the end of the book just got cut off. She lost the end of the chapter and they're like, whoops, well, we're gonna publish it anyways. I just didn't like it. I just didn't like it. And it's so disappointing because this was one of my most anticipated reads of last year. It was a 5-star prediction. And coming off the month before reading Butcher and the Wren by Elena Urquhart, who is another true crime podcaster, and that being a 5-star, to coming to this, and I had such high hopes for this, and it just flopped. It flopped so bad. Which again makes me so sad because this could have been a really good story. Like, the JonBenet Ramsey case is a fascinating case, and she could have taken it in many different directions and made it super interesting, and she didn't. She really didn't. I don't know. I just was not. Like, the twist at the end was, yeah, I didn't. I mean, I kind of saw it, but at the same time, like, the full motivation behind the twist at the end was pretty that was okay. Like, I didn't see it coming, but it was so overshadowed by everything else that was just not good that I couldn't even give it praise for that. So, I mean, that's why it's not like lower though, like a 2 or 2.5 to 2.75, because it did have a good kind of ending and reveal. And like I said, the 2019 timeline was decent. It was okay. It was, again, nothing spectacular, but it would have been a 3-star if it wasn't for the massive fanfic feel of the past. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But when I saw that, I was like, you cannot describe this book in any other way other than it is John Benet Ramsey fanfic. So, I mean, if that's something that interests you, you know, obviously there are people who enjoy this book who gave it really good reviews. I mean, Karen Slaughter blurbed it. And I love Karen Slaughter. She is a great thriller author. So obviously this book is for some people. It was just not for me. Not at all. Okay, and then we are moving on to the last book I read in the month of June, and this one made up for it, you guys. This was a 5-star. This was a debut, and this is Missing Clarissa by Ripley Jones. So I know some people are kind of over the whole podcast situation in books. Not me. I am still like, yes, give them all to me. I want to read all the true crime podcast book situations. So this is very reminiscent of, I think it's being compared to like Sadie and A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I also feel like this is gives me vibes of I Killed Zoe Spanos, which is a book that I absolutely adore that I don't really hear many people talking about, but it was a really good one. So anyways, Missing Clarissa. This is about these 2 girls who are in a journalism class, and they basically they have an assignment to, you know, basically make a project for their class. And they decide that they want to create a podcast revolving around the missing persons case of a young woman who disappeared in the 90s in their small town named Clarissa. And she basically, it was like, she went to a party. This was like, she just graduated high school. It was like August after graduation. And they were partying out in the woods, and she disappeared. No one knows whatever happened to her. And so there's speculation of like, was she murdered? Did she run away? Was she abducted? Like, you know, and is out there somewhere. So nobody really knows. And they kind of get together and are kind of like, okay, we're going to try and solve the case and see, you know, where is Clarissa? And they do it in a form of a podcast. Now, the 2 girls in here are like, they're best friends, and they are polar opposites. One is like manic and she's like wicked smart, like book smart, you know, like she's very advanced in like sciences and all this stuff. And she is Mexican American, I believe. And so that, you know, that kind of ties into it a little bit. And then you have on the other end of the spectrum, you have the other girl, and I can't remember names to save my life, y'all. And she is more down to earth. She's more reserved. She's on the track team, and she's dating like the football star, you know, but she doesn't feel like she's very good at school. Like, she feels like she is just mediocre, right? And so you got the 2 of them, but they're best friends. And so the kind of more manic, crazy one, who's just like, what? All the time. Like, she was great. I loved her character so much. She was so much fun. She's the one that kind of ropes her friend into doing this podcast. And so they basically start digging stuff up, and they're kind of being warned by their teacher, like, hey, be careful, because there are still people in this town who remember her and who had, you know, it's a touchy subject because no one ever found out what happened to her. Now, one of the things that I really did enjoy about this book is they touch upon the topic that the reason why this case basically went national and viral or whatever was because she was a pretty young white girl. And they do talk about the fact that, like, if she wasn't a pretty young white girl, would we even be interested in her case? And so I like the fact that the book acknowledges that, and they acknowledge, and they're like, yeah, we know this kid, I mean, we're still gonna look into it, because just because she, you know, not just because, but like, even though she is this that, like, you know, everyone knows about, she still deserves justice, you know? But they recognize the fact that, like, Native women are disappearing, like, being murdered and disappearing like crazy. No one ever talks about it. They talk about the fact that, like, underprivileged poor people or people in like different profession, like if you're like a prostitute or something, like no one really looks into your disappearance. So they did touch on that in this book and basically realize it. Yet at the same time, they're like, okay, yeah, but we're still going to continue this case. But we're aware of the fact that this is a problem. I really, really appreciated that. Because that is something that in real life, I mean, that's really, truly what's going on. Like, you only ever hear about the cases on the news of, like, pretty young white girls. Which, again, they deserve just as much justice as everybody else. Everybody, you know, a victim is a victim, no matter what you look like or what you've done. But, you know, it's just something that I did appreciate the fact that it was brought up in this book. There's questions about whether or not there was inappropriate relations with a teacher. So that is kind of another, that might be a trigger for some people, I don't know. But that is brought up in here. It's never gone into in detail or anything, but there's definitely, like, they're kind of bringing up these secrets that people are trying to keep it on the down low. You know, they end up going and talking to the parents, and they're trying to meet with different people who knew her and figure it out. But stuff is kind of happening, and it seems like someone doesn't want them to figure out what happened to Clarissa. And so, yeah, they're kind of feeling like they're a little bit in jeopardy. And the podcast element's really fun because they don't know how to do a podcast. Their teacher was like, do you know anything about podcasts? And the one girl, the more like out there girl, was like, yeah, it's easy. You just talk into your phone and you're good, you know? And so they joke all the time in the book about how their quality is. Like, are you in a bathroom, or are you like, where are you guys filming at or recording? Because it's horrible sound quality. And it's just funny. And then you do, if listening to the audiobook, you do get the sound changes, you get the music. That's what I really love about like listening to audiobooks that have podcasts in them, is what I find a lot of them will do that. They'll put in the music, they'll put in the sound effects, the different voices for different people. Now, this is a dual perspective. You are following the point of view from both girls, both of the students, which I really enjoyed. It does deal with, you know, insecurities as a young woman, of feeling like you're not good enough, of feeling like you're disappointing your family, having to like work through that, and working through, you know, the one girl who's the track star, like her boyfriend doesn't necessarily treat her the best, and so she's kind of having to work through that situation. And just a lot of like high school stuff, but it's done in a way that is more, it's not like angsty high school, you know, it's definitely, again, kind of along the same lines as A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. So if you like The Good Girl's Guide to Murder, even though I haven't finished the book yet, but I'm really getting close to finishing it, I would say definitely check out Missing Clarissa, because I think it's very reminiscent of that. I will say though, that one thing that I was like really thrown by was the C word is used in here 2 or 3 times. And now it's used in a way of like, they're talking about people that are commenting on their podcast, and someone comments a negative review and calls them that, but it literally says the word. And when I heard that, I was like, whoa, this is a YA book and we're using that word? Like, okay. That was really the only like issue I had with the book, was the fact that that was in there. And I'm like, that's okay, then we're using that. I mean, I understand that it was like someone had commented it and they're like saying like it's a negative review, but it's like, do we really have to like say it? I don't know. That's just personal opinion. Was not a fan of that. But other than that, it was great. You have like one of the, like the Latino girl, she has a single mom, and because her dad died when she was very young. And then the other one comes from a family who is very strict and very like expects, you know, her to be very successful in life and all this stuff. So you really get a lot of different perspectives from different home lives, and it was just a great book. Oh my gosh, you guys, just like go read it. If you liked, like I said, if you like Good Girl's Guide to Murder, pick up this book. If you liked Sadie, if you liked I Killed Zoe Spanos, pick up this book. It's so great. And then I just found out too recently that there is a sequel coming, and I'm so excited. So the mystery does kind of get wrapped up in this book, but they're like sophomores in high school, I think. So it's another, something happens, they, you know, their podcast kind of gets big, and then I think the sequel is kind of just another case that comes up. So I'm really excited for that as well. Okay, guys. No, you know what? I know I said I rated that a 5, but that was because my ribbon was in the way. It was actually a 4.5, which looking back at it now though, I'm like, I don't know, maybe it was like a 4.75, because it was real close to being a 5-star. It was a really good book. Yeah, you're also dealing with like rich people and the powers that they hold because they are rich. So it's another one of those in there too. But I thought it was done masterfully. I really enjoyed it. Okay, now that I've been talking for a full hour, of course I'm gonna condense. It's still gonna be a long video, but it's me. What do you expect? That is my June wrap up. Overall, it was pretty dang good. I only had 1 5-star, but that's okay. I am kind of picky with my 5 stars. Like, I don't like to give them out very easily. It takes a lot to get a 5-star book, but I had a lot of 4.5, so that was great. And like I said, the only flop was the one, but it was like a major flop because it was such a highly anticipated book. Ugh. Oh well. Let's hope July is better. So far, it's pretty good. So yeah, that's it, guys. That's the wrap up. If you all have any questions about any of the books that I read, you want to talk to me about them, you know, more information, whatever, let me know down in the comments. If you've read any of the books, if you're interested in any of them, if you love them, if you hate them, you know, talk to me. I would love to know your guys' thoughts, your opinions. I'd love to know, has anybody else read All Good People Here and also didn't like it, so we can rant together, would be great. Or if you've read any of the other ones that I've loved. Sorry, dog's bumping the camera. Let me know, because I really want to chat with you all about these books that I've read. They're just, it was a good month. So that is that. And if you all have made it to the end of this video, well, first off, would you give me a like and a subscribe if you haven't already? I'm so sorry. The dog decided he wants to be a part of this. Yeah, give me a like, give me a subscribe. If you haven't, leave your comments as always. And if you guys don't have anything to say, but just want to let me know that you were here, thanks, Ranger. Go ahead and leave a little dog emoji in the comments, a German Shepherd emoji or any kind of puppy emoji, because Ranger had to make his appearance, of course. So thanks guys so much for watching. Please, like I said, do comment below and I will hope to see you in my next video. Bye guys.